Hey, Charmian, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very busy.
Well, thank you for joining me today. Ozark Mountain wanted to do this author series and interview the authors and have people learn more about you guys. So you are the very first one. So there will be more to,
Great.
but I'm glad
Mm-hmm.
it worked out time-wise. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I guess let's just get to it. You've been an author with Ozark for quite a while, and
Mm-hmm.
I have it correctly. You've written two books, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
And so I figured, why don't have you start out a little bit with your background information, and then we'll get into the information about your books.
Absolutely. Yes, I had a very normal life until I was 29. I was a school teacher living in England, having a nice life, playing darts in the pub with my neighbors. Very nice. And then when my twins were born, I gave birth to twins actually exactly 42 years ago in June. So they just turned 42. And everything about the birth went horribly wrong, was all mismanaged. A lot of mistakes were made. So I ended up having this massive internal bleeding, like pints blood in the pelvis that they didn't know about, which all got infected. So when the twins were 10 days old, I was rushed back to the hospital, very, very sick. I was actually dying. And I had this experience the first night that I was in the hospital of just floating up out of my body, looking down at the body. And for the first time in my life, because I never wasn't into spiritual stuff, barely knew what meditation was. For the first time in my life, I totally understood that I am not the body. I am this consciousness that is separate from the body, and the body is just the house that this consciousness lives in. So it was very peaceful. It was very beautiful. There was no resistance. I just floated out of the body. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew that it was into light, and there was nothing to fear, absolutely no fear. So I floated away, away, away. And then I emerged into this really beautiful golden light. And in that light was everything that anybody could possibly want. I was enfolded in the most perfect love that I have never experienced on this earth plane, on the physical form. And I just knew this is where I came from. This is where I belong. This is where I want to be. This is home. And everything down there is just a story that I'm making up. So I really just wanted to be in the light. And then Master Jesus appeared in front of me and just looked at me with complete acceptance, non judgment, just forgiveness, just whatever you've done doesn't matter because you are this soul that is full of light. And he said to me, because your heart is pure, if you want to, you can go back you can stay here with us in the golden light. But we are asking you to go back because the world needs your love, your wisdom, and your healing. Well, at the time, I didn't know anything about what I know now. But I said, how can I go back down there knowing that this is where I belong with you? So his heart was this blazing blue star. He reached into his heart, took out a piece like a point of the star, and he put it in my heart. And he said, now you will know that I am always with you. So the next minute, I'm floating over the body in the hospital bed. And it was really hard to get back into that body because I knew I was taking on suffering. And if I stayed out, I would never suffer again. But I haven't given birth to these two babies. No way I was leaving them without a mother. So that's the only reason I came back, really. Not to save humanity or save the planet, just so that my twins would have a mother. So from that moment when I came awake again in the hospital, my whole life was changed. I was not the same person as I was when I left. I just knew there's so much more to life than we can see on the physical. And I wanted to know what that is, and I wanted to get back there. So I actually developed this way of using hypnosis. I call it authentic self-hypnosis. And how I use that is to take people into that golden light. Because when I got back, I knew that my life was changed. And I said, I want everyone to do this without having to, all the drama, the physical stuff. That was a rather extreme way of having what they call now a near-death experience. So I started using hypnosis to take people into the golden light. And that's what I've been doing ever since now for 35 years. And then I found myself, I traveled a lot because I was always being asked to take the teachings and take the light to different parts of the world. And I found myself living in Hawaii. And as soon as I put my feet on the ground in Hawaii, when I got off the plane, I knew for the first time in my life I was safe and that I could show who I am, and I wouldn't be attacked, because a lot of, not just this life but previous lives, I had been attacked or even put to death for speaking out, speaking up against tyranny, or speaking a different kind of spirituality than the organized religions were teaching, basically being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I've carried with me this feeling like it's not safe to show who I am. But in Hawaii, that was not the case. So I found out why, what my connection with Hawaii was, because I always knew that I was a Lemurian from Lemuria, but I didn't know anything about Lemuria. I just knew that I was one. But as soon as I started doing my hypnosis sessions in Hawaii, everybody that I met was part of my family from Lemuria. So I found that I had all this information about how beautiful that civilization was. It was the first civilization on the earth, and it was before what we call the fall, before we decided to separate our divine self from our physical form, because this has not always been the case. In the beginning, we were one, and then we chose to go through that separation to experience the disconnect. And then there would be a time when we would come back to that oneness. And the reason I was being given all of this information from the sessions, because this is that time, because this is the time that the earth is now being lifted back to the light. So I published the book. I put all this information into a book, and I called it Coming Home to Lemuria, and Ozark published it. So that's the book started going out, and I was talking and giving teachings. And then I was getting all these messages, letters, emails from all over the world, from people saying, well, it doesn't feel much like peace and harmony and love, which is how we lived in Lemuria. People are very frightened right now. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of turmoil. So I asked my guides, what can I tell these people? And the answer was, show them where we're going. So I deliberately invited people to do sessions going into the future when the earth is healed, when we're living in the new earth at a much higher level of consciousness than we are now. And you can see the shift, especially since COVID. COVID was meant to literally stop our world, stop us in our tracks, so that we can go inside and see what's really important. It's not about the stuff. It's not about the job. It's not about promotion. It's not about status on the material. It's about, who do I love? Where is my heart? What is feeding me love, and what do I feed love to? And it's not about things. It's about the planet, the animals, the plants, and our people, our pets, and our loved ones. So I wrote that into another book called 2012, A New Earth Rising. And it's all about how we're having this change of consciousness now, because we're meant to remember who we really are, which is a very powerful divine human, and that is what we have forgotten. But everything on the planet is supporting us now. The electromagnetic frequency of the earth is measurably rising. And what that means is that for us, the veils are getting thinner. It's much easier to connect with our guides, to connect with our higher parts of ourself, our soul essence, and to receive guidance, communication, but also to embody more of our soul self and start doing what we came to do, find our soul purpose and then start living it. So that's what I do in my sessions. We connect to the soul, we bring that soul into the body, use the connection to the whole, complete, perfect self to release blockages, which usually come from either this life in childhood or from past lives where we've received negative programming. I'm not safe, I'm not good enough, I'm a bad person, I'll never get it right, I'll never succeed, all of that stuff. All of that we take out, and then we go into the future to see what it will look like when I am living 100% from my own divine essence. What will that look like and how do I get there? So that's most of the work that I'm doing now, these sessions of, I call it ASH, ASH, authentic self hypnosis. So this is a very powerful time. We planned for this. We brought in all of the learning, all the experiences. Some of them have been pretty painful, but everything that we need as an individual to achieve this higher state of consciousness is already happening. So when we do the hypnosis, it just helps you to understand why. Why is this happening? Why am I in this awful relationship? Why have I developed this illness, this disease, or this physical challenge? Because it's something that we chose in order to have a specific lesson for our soul to grow. So nothing that happens to us is us being victimized. Nobody's doing anything to us at all. People are just showing up to hold mirrors for our own inner galaxy of different persona that we have inside. So some people hold up what I call a shadow mirror that shows us our wounding. So if you have a deep-rooted belief that you don't deserve to be respected, you are going to attract all these people who show that to you, who treat you like trash or a doormat, until you get the message and say, I'm not putting up with this. I deserve more than this. And then you walk out the door. You fire them because you don't need them anymore. So those people will stay in your life, treat you very badly until you decide, I'm worth more than that. I don't deserve to be treated with anything less than respect. So everyone in your life is there at your invitation. So don't just complain about it. Don't just say, oh, that person's being so mean. Ask yourself, why have I invited this experience into my life? How is it helping me? How am I learning from it? And what do I need to do about it? So that's very important. There is no victim. There is only learning and releasing.
Well, Charmin, I personally very much agree with that, especially nowadays. I guess if that's the only thing you've ever known, you always want to point the finger outwards and look at, everyone else that, it's, I don't have this because of this or that scenario or this or that person. But I wanted to ask you something because I found it very interesting what you said about, so regarding the near-death experience and what you had to go through, having had this physical experience. So that means then, if through a guided meditation, then everyone can go to the light and see the light, or is it not quite on the same
No,
level as the
it is.
physical?
It is. That's why I created this way of using the hypnosis technique, because hypnosis is just a technique that puts you into a trance that simulates your dream state. So I take people into a deep trance level. We go down to the theta level, and from that place, you can literally experience everything that I experienced in the golden light.
Mhm.
But just like as if you're asleep, you come awake. But you bring with you the experience. So when people come out of the sessions take 2 hours, they just go, wow, because you actually experience yourself as divine essence, and you get to feel the consciousness and the qualities. You feel the immense power, the knowledge, the certainty. There's no doubt there. Your soul does not wring its hands with self-doubt and say, oh, I'm such a bad soul. Your soul just wants to shine. It wants you to shine, wants a vehicle to shine through. So most people say that the session is completely life-changing. And that's why I've made it my life work now. This is what I do.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. So, I guess let's get back into your first book, Coming Home to Lemuria, and if you could maybe talk a little bit about that,
Mm-hmm.
the message you were wanting to portray in that, and kind of your initial. Well, we kind of know where your inspiration was, but kind of what got the process started, I should say.
Well, it was just quite accidental. It wasn't an intention. I was just living on Hawaii, and Lemuria was the first civilization on this planet before Atlantis. Atlantis is where the Atlantic Ocean is now. Lemuria was where the Pacific Ocean is now. So all the Pacific Islands, India, Australia, Japan, west coast of America, that was all part of Lemuria. And it was this huge civilization that of people who came from the stars to raise the frequency of the earth. So we all came down from different stars. I personally came from Sirius, which is where the Christ light is being held. And I came with the whales and the dolphins. Whales and dolphins are also here to raise the frequency of the earth and to bring in the Christ light. So we all came together from different star systems, and we founded this incredibly beautiful whole civilization that was based on loving kindness. We birthed our babies into love, and then the whole community would parent these little children, because we realize what a precious gift it is to bring another life into the world. We taught our children by letting them explore lots and lots of different types of learning, different experiences. And then whatever they showed a gift in or they were interested in, they would learn more in that particular aspect, like gardening or technology or music or something like that. So it was all based on bringing out the true qualities in each child. So they were not judged by a standardized format or a level. They were all just encouraged. So there was no competition, is what I mean. Competitiveness was not known in Lemuria. We were able to manifest everything that we needed physically into being simply by thought, by focus, and working in our groups. We would literally manifest. So we could create anything we wanted to. So there was no sense of lack. So there was no need to compete with anyone, because we had as much as we could ever want of everything. So our only motivation was service, really. And that's how you can tell Lemurian people, because a lot of those Lemurians have come back now to the earth, and you can tell who they are because they're very devoted to service. I call it LSD, love, service, and devotion. So we lived this loving, kind, peaceful life, very rich. We were able to communicate with the animals and the plants telepathically. So we saw the earth as this beautiful garden that was such a blessing for us to be in. So we wanted to take care of it. So it was a civilization went on for thousands of years. And then as a soul choice, we decided that we were going to experience separation for the very first time. Nobody did it to us. That I've read different accounts that some people say that space aliens deliberately disconnected our consciousness, or in the Bible it said God threw us out of the Garden of Eden. That's not the case. We chose. We got up and walked out of the Garden of Eden. And you would say, why on earth did we want to do that? We were living in paradise. It really was paradise. Well, the reason that we made that decision was on the soul level, we wanted to grow. Now, if you only ever experience love and peace and kindness and harmony and beauty, you don't really grow very quickly as a soul. When you experience challenge, opposition, tribulation, and you overcome it, you can see that that is very invigorating, stimulating, and a learning experience for us all. So we chose as a group that we were all going to forget our divine consciousness, where we could just manifest things at will. We could telepathically communicate with every living form. We could just travel back to the stars whenever we wanted to. We could go back to the source whenever we wanted to. And that's how we kind of kept our consciousness and our energy so high that we would regularly go back to the golden light to be fed, and then we would bring that down to the earth. So we chose that we were going to leave all of that and we were going to experience separation. And so that's what we did. The portals closed, the portals that took us back to the stars, back to the golden light, they all closed. And then all we had was the physical. And we kind of, I've remembered this myself in a session, like, oh my God, what have I done? And just being horrified. And for me, going into this deep grief for being separated from the love that had been my whole existence. What I've learned from other people that I've done session with, some people went into anger and rage, like, this isn't right, this shouldn't have been allowed to happen. But it was our choice. So a lot of people, in fact, pretty much everybody, is still carrying what I call the original wound of the fall. For some people, it shows up as grief. For some people, it shows up as anger. And you came in with it into this life. Because what happens is when you have a very powerful experience in a previous life, you keep recreating it in future lives, trying to release it and resolve it. So that's why in this life, some of us came in with anger and we keep creating situations that make us angry. And the whole purpose of that is not just to be angry all the time, but to find a way through anger into serenity and acceptance. Some people came in with this deep grief at being separated from everything that we loved. So we keep repeating situations in this life of losing people in relationships, in friendships, pets, whatever it is. We keep recreating loss so that we can heal that original wound of grief. So this lifetime is the most important of any of our lifetimes here on the earth, because here in this life we take everything that was broken, We don't judge it. We don't rant and rail about it. We heal it and we lift it up into the light. So actually, this year even is the most critical of any, that all the portals that we've had that have been lifting us slowly, incrementally into higher frequencies. The culmination was on 2/22/22. 22nd of February 2022 was when the Earth physically went into the fifth dimension, which means that now we are able to manifest very quickly. We are attracting the situations and the people that we are going to go through the shift, the ascension, the paradigm shift, whatever you want to call it, that we're going to go through the ascension with. So this year there's been a lot of change in jobs, in relationships, in physical location, because we're all being placed in the exact perfect place for us to be able to go with the planet into the ascension.
And so regarding that, that rage that you were talking about, I was wondering, so is it also partly because for a lot of them, or if not all of them, this was the very first time they've even had such experience?
Oh, absolutely. There was no conscious life on Earth in terms of humanity before Lemuria. And it's not really in historical time. It was before historical time. Because when we first came down from the stars in Lemuria, we were not physical. We were more like a spirit form. So we didn't have time. There was no time. And actually, we came down into the oceans first. Before we were physical in human form, we came into the oceans. And this is where the myths of the mer people come from, because we were actually the mer people. And we'd never been physical before. On our other existences, on other planets, on other dimensions, we don't have a third dimensional 3D physical body. We have more subtle bodies that we can change. We can locate, move to different places by thinking. So we came down into the oceans in order to master the element of the physical, and it was easier to do it in water than it wasn't to do it in the land. And then once we'd got used to being physical, then we changed our tails for legs and we walked out onto the land.
So, I would assume then they took these lessons for what they are, lessons, and understood that, oh, okay, this is the other aspect of growth that I guess they didn't consider before.
Yes, we did it as Lemurians,
Right.
but after the fall, it's like we were all put into a coma. We were all put to sleep, and that was what the original intention was, that we would come in as these fully conscious master beings that we would call superheroes now, because we had all of those kinds of qualities and gifts that the superheroes have. That's why we're all watching Superwoman and all those Avatar things, because we remember. I used to be able to do that, to time travel, to fly through space, to locate from one location to another in seconds. We had those powers, and then we literally went to sleep, forgot that we had them, and now, because this was always planned, this was always part of the design, there would come a time when we would awaken from our trance-like sleep and we would reclaim this superconsciousness. And that is what's happening now, is that people are waking up extremely quickly. You probably have noticed just the way more people are talking about, let's have peace, let's have sharing, let's have the children taken care of, let's stop cutting down all the trees, let's save the oceans, let's look after the earth. That just in the last few years, there's been an explosion of consciousness, especially with the young people. So that was all part of the plan.
So regarding Lemuria itself, and please forgive me if I didn't understand. So was it more of an underwater
Only in
place,
the
or
beginning, only in the very beginning.
so
And then,
did it exist as land at all?
oh yes, it was a vast continent that
Okay,
that covered the Pacific, where the Pacific is now. So all of the Pacific islands, and Hawaii was actually the heartland. It was the motherland. It was the heart center of Lemuria was Hawaii, and that's why the memories are so strong there, and that's why people are being drawn to go to Hawaii, either to live there or just to go visit there will awaken all of these remembrances. Yes, so it was a whole continent, and then it
right.
was actually destroyed by the Atlanteans. The Atlanteans were doing pretty much what we are doing now. They sacrificed heart. You see, Lemuria was all about the heart. The Atlanteans were about the mind and the will, and they took a very dark path. In the beginning, the Atlantean, it was a very wonderful light civilization, all crystals and beautiful pyramids, temples. Everybody was sharing, was happy, was lived a very beautiful life. But then it got taken over by some very dark energies that were only wanting power for self. Now, Lemurians and the early Atlanteans, who were called the Atla-Ra, the people of the One, they had no concept of power for self. We didn't understand what that was because we only lived for everyone, because we saw everyone as the oneness, and I am the oneness, and you are the oneness, and we are all the same. So it was very challenging that these dark entities took over Atlantis, and we tried to stop them. We, as the Atla Ra, who served the One, we tried to stop them. What they were doing was there was this huge crystal grid that went all around the continent of Atlantis, which is where the Atlantic is now. So parts of Africa, Europe, the west coast of England, Ireland, they were all part of Atlantis, east coast of America, and the islands in the Atlantic, the Bahamas, that they were all part of Atlantis. Now, what happened was that these dark energies, they got control of this crystal grid that we use to generate energy to run our machines and our technology, very clean technology. They use the energy for themselves to make themselves more powerful and to control people and animals with mind control. And they kept running more and more power through the circuits. So we told them, if you keep doing that, you're going to blow the whole thing and cause destruction. Well, of course, they didn't listen because they just wanted more power. And that's what happened. So they sank Atlantis. Atlantis ended up sinking. But before that happened, they had developed these weapons, these super weapons, and they blew up Lemuria as well. So Lemuria was sinking, and we knew that the end was coming. So what we did, we took our knowledge and our crystals, and we started various civilizations so that our knowledge and our way of living would remain on the earth. One of them went to India, which is the rishis. The early stories of the rishis in India had blue skin. The Lemurians have blue skin. So this was a Lemurian colony. Another colony went underneath Mount Shasta in a city which is called Talos. That's a Lemurian colony. Some of them went to South America. The Aztecs, the Mayan, the Inca, they were all the Lemurian outposts with a very high consciousness. So This was so this was what happened with Lemuria and Atlantis. When we knew the continent was sinking and our way of life was going to end, we sent these outposts, and that's how the pyramids in Egypt were built, by the Atlantean outposts, the settlers who settled before Atlantis went down.
So, was this part of the fall, basically, or this descending into,
Yeah.
I guess, this experience? Sort of figured, why not kick it off with this altercation?
Well, that's right. It was exactly what the fall was, that the earth then became a battleground of power over, control, misuse of power, using violence and force to control people. So that's one camp. And then the other camp was oneness, sharing, loving kindness. So this battle has been going on the earth since the fall. And this lifetime that we are in now is the culmination and the resolution of that conflict, because the earth has shifted. The frequency of the earth has shifted into the fifth dimension, which which only has love. Only love is possible on the fifth dimension. So we have this time lap that at the moment it's still possible to be on the earth and live for self. But eventually that will not be possible. The third dimension is leaving the earth. So those who still want to play the power over game, they will not be doing it on the earth. So we're in this time now where everyone has to choose. Where am I going to put my energy? Basically, there are two spirals of energy on the earth. There is an ascending spiral, which is taking the matter, the physical, back to spirit. There's a descending spiral, which is the spirit coming down into matter, and that the descending spiral has nowhere to go because it's getting smaller and smaller. The spiral is getting smaller and smaller till it will disappear into itself. So that spiral is all the power over the misuse of power. This spiral, the ascending one, is what is lifting us back to the light. So every one of us has a choice to make. Which spiral do I feed? And I am very clear that I am here to build the new earth, not to participate in the destruction of the old earth, because they're doing a great job. They don't need my help. So I don't want people to be frightened by what you're seeing right now. All of the conflict, there's war in Ukraine. It's just part of all of that negativity. First being brought into the light, the racism, the bigotry, the discrimination with color, with religion, with wealth, with poverty, whatever it is, people saying, I'm better than you. All of that is being exposed so that we can make a choice. So what I was told about the war in the Ukraine after 2/22/22 was that was the first time that humanity as a whole was being given a test. Are we still going to allow war? Do we still want to play war? Or are we going to make different choices? So this is a situation that the global family needs to address and bring to resolution. And we can, if we put our intention and we all work together and stop fighting each other, we can resolve any situation that is on the earth plane.
Well, Charmian, this seems to be a good segue then to get into New Earth Rising. So,
Right.
was this part of what you've written about this? I guess is this basically just the new direction of what's to come?
Yes, it is, because when I finish my sessions, every session, and we go into the future to the new earth, and this has been going on for 30 years, that people see that we're living in much more cooperation. We are sharing much more. People are just kinder. They're looking after their neighbors, their children, their pets. They're growing more food, having more gardens. So this is the new earth, and it's all in the book. And I wrote it in 2011, and it's even more relevant now than it was then, because out of the darkness that we see all around us, there is this huge light, and it's pushing the darkness up, making it visible so that it can be seen and addressed. When it's all secret and hidden, we don't know it's going on, so we don't do anything about it. Like all of the racial events in America that came up under the administration, the Trump administration, all of that very white supremacist, that was the hidden underbelly of America. Because of the Trump administration, it's not hidden anymore, it's very much in your face. So it's all part of the plan, and it is the birth of the new earth. And we are the midwives. Whether it comes sooner or later is down to us. The more of us that wake up to who we are, start using the gifts, the knowledge, and the wisdom that we have, that we've learned for thousands of years. We've worked in the temples, we've trained as healers, as priestesses, as priests, manifesting, focusing, bringing into being whatever we choose. We know how to do this, and we are the ones who are reclaiming this earth. So that's exactly what the book is about. It tells you where we're going, and it tells you how to get there. So I did about 18 sessions with people, taking them all forward. And then I took all the information, and everybody saw the same thing. They were completely unrelated. They didn't know any of my other sessions because I hadn't published the book yet. But everybody had the same information, that we were living a simpler life, much more community based, sharing resources, taking care of people, taking care of the earth, and the earth was restored. The water was clean. The soil was clean. Everything was restored. So that's very much what the book is about.
What kind of a time period are we talking between this transitional period and this future that we all hope and wish for?
Well, that's the thing, you see, where it's down to us. When I ask when is this going to happen, they say the more of us that come online, which means connecting to our own divine essence, it's going to bring it faster. So I do have seen that by 2035 it will be very obvious and very visible, and by 2080 it will be complete. But how quickly it takes to do that is down to each one of us. The image that I was given is that there's this mesh that goes around the earth, and when a light worker remembers who they are, a little light goes on the mesh, and so gradually the mesh is getting brighter and lighter, and when enough people are lit up, the whole of the web will light up. It doesn't take everyone to become enlightened or to live from their higher consciousness. It takes enough of us to create a critical mass, and then we will wake everybody up instantly overnight, like in Revelations, in the blink of an eye. So that's why it is so important for each one of us, and this is really the only job that we have right now, is to raise our vibration, to give up all negativity, all blame, all you did this, you made this happen, you're really mean, including blaming self, guilt and shame. This is what I've found in my years of hypnosis. Guilt, shame, self-doubt are the things that hold the light workers back. And this is all conditioning from childhood and from past lives. So we need to just get rid of all that, just let it go, and just say, I'm ready now to be all that I can be. And then just see where your heart leads you. It's all about the heart. It's following your passion, finding out what you're passionate about, and then doing it. And don't let anything stop you.
As you're talking, it made me wonder that in a lot of ways, for a lot of people, whatever this drive we're going through right now is kind of like that mirror, as you were talking about, um, kind of pointing back to us about what it is that we want and don't want. But I guess that is part of that growing process, because otherwise, if something is not brought to light, if things are not being looked at, how does one change? So, in a lot of ways, then, because of this conflict, I guess, will this get people to start looking on their own terms?
Absolutely,
Because
absolutely.
otherwise, they
Hmm.
would be just fine and content.
That's right. And so what I'm getting, the image that I'm being given recently is like the pot is being stirred. The energy
Right.
of the earth, the pot is being stirred. And this black stuff, these black, like liquid tar, these bubbles, these black bubbles are rising up from the bottom, coming to the surface and popping so that we can see them. So it's really important to know that we can make the difference. We have the power, and especially as we come together and we put our energies together, then we can create miracles. We should expect miracles because that's the consciousness that we're moving into now. And we already have it. It's just a matter of waking up and remembering, because it's hidden. It's hidden in the subconscious. And that's why I like to use hypnosis, because it's a very fast way of getting from your conscious mind, which knows almost nothing, it's only 10% of the brain, to your subconscious mind, where all the programs are, and your superconscious mind, which is the part of you that knows you are a divine creator, powerful being. So once you know that that part is there, once you've experienced it, which is what we do first in the sessions, it totally changes the way you feel about yourself and about your life. When you know what a super being you are, you don't let people mess you around. So you
Right.
start making boundaries. Very important. People are letting themselves be disrespected, disregarded. Very important to draw boundaries. You know, the Native Americans have a really beautiful teaching about sacred space. They say that every one of us has two circles around us that we let people into our lives through. Anyone can come into the outer circle, but you have very strict rules about how they have to behave, and you don't let them all the way in. The people that you allow into your inner sacred space must have shown you that they earned the right to be there, that they deserve to be there because they are in integrity. So the only people that you allow into your innermost sacred space, which includes your body, your home, your presence, they have to show you that they deserve to be there because they are in integrity. So if people have other people in their lives, if you have people in your life who are treating you like a doormat, you have to ask yourself, why am I allowing this? What is my belief about myself that is letting this happen? And what do I need to do about it? What is it teaching me? And what do I need to do about it? So it's self-empowerment is so important, that you reclaim your authentic self and start living from that place. And you'll find that your life changes. The people who have been your persecutors, they'll drop away because you don't need them anymore. And the people who see the light that you are, because that's the other kind of mirror that I talk about. There's some people are showing you your dark mirror, your shadow mirror, which is your wounding. Other people are showing you your light mirror, because they see the light in you even when you don't see it in yourself. And they say, you're so wonderful, you're so beautiful, you can do all these things. And you're going, what, me? And so you'll find more of these people coming into your life and less of the challengers and the persecutors, as you start to make boundaries and take control, take charge of your own life.
Charmian, thank you very much for all this information. So I think we're pretty much at conclusion. If there's
Mhm,
something else you would like to finish off with, also maybe I know at the bottom for the description, I'm going to have all the links to your books through
mhm,
the Ozark website
mhm,
or Amazon
mhm.
or wherever else they're available. But if there's any other websites you would like to share and would
Oh,
like people to check
absolutely.
out, please do
Mhm. Yes,
let me know.
a lot of my work now is teaching people to channel and to connect to the guides, the star beings, the plant spirits, the elementals. I do these on Zoom classes, on Zoom channeling classes, and I have a whole YouTube channel with my meditations. So some of them are on my website, and there's a whole lot on my YouTube channel. Channelings, healing the inner child, reclaiming the sacred feminine, the divine masculine. And my website is cominghometolemuria.com. That's the name of the book. So I always post my classes, my events. I lead retreats all over the place. I'm taking a group to Hawaii, not Hawaii, to Tahiti in October to swim with whales. So all of that information is on my website, cominghometelemuria.com. So I do hope that you will find me. Thank you very much.
Well, great. Thank you for that. I'm going to have to get all these links from you and we'll include them in the description below.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, I think this went well. This for the very first series in the author series for Ozark. I think we did a good job.
All right.
um, all right. Well, thank you again. So yeah, we'll. I'm not quite sure who I'm going to have next for next week. I'm going to have to check the schedule. But again, I'm glad this worked out. All the links for your books and your websites will be in the description below. And so thank you again. And we'll catch all of you later.
Thank you, Adnan. Bless you. Bye bye.
Thank you.